Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Friday, June 17th, 2022. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing, Adeoye Jr. Joining me is Gameonicist, aka Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good?
Janet, it's been day 3 of me and you being on a show together, and I feel like this might be a record.
Yeah, maybe. What was the Oh yeah, because we did KFGD and then PS I Love You and then this. PS I Love Fridays, even though y'all can do that when Greg is here, but it was like I feel like that's still originally us. You know what I mean?
That was originally us, and that's the thing is Kevin still keeps the graphic on every single Friday, and I don't think Kevin realizes that that's a me and Janet thing.
Even though it still makes sense
because I think
it is PS I Love Fridays. Still.
I think I was the one that was originally here for that PS I Love whatever it was.
PS Love Friday.
The one that I have, the image that I have is for whatever reason Tuesdays. I don't have a Friday one. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Were we together on Tuesday ever? I don't think we were.
Maybe we were. Maybe this is before Gary Whitta switched to Tuesdays. Was it me?
I think
that might have been Whitta Wednesdays or something. And then...
I think this was just a singular Tuesday that we did where Barrett was over prepared, but now he's never prepared again.
Yeah, because like it's been a minute since I've ran Games Daily with you two consistently. You know.
Janet, how's your Friday?
It's going. I was talking to you before this that I'm like, I thought I was hosting for a second, so I was like overly prepared. Like I sat down here and then I'm like, oh, I have time to do some emails and stuff. But it's going good. It's Faceplate Friday.
Oh yeah.
Because my faceplates are arriving. Because
what color did you get your PS5 faceplates?
Yeah, the Nova Pink ones came out today, so I'm getting those through like. They're like, if you're a PS Plus member, we're like actually sending your stuff really like stupid fast. So. Supposed to get today. I already bought the controller, but I haven't opened it because I'm saving. Like I'm doing like a PlayStation 5 makeover where I have like the faceplates, the new controller. I have the 2 terabyte drive. So yeah, I did that. You know, I got a cold brew. I walked at the gym this morning. I'm like really. I feel like I'm finally like I can do a full reset after the chaos of my brother's wedding.
I feel that.
I'm here. I'm back. I'm alive.
I feel like it's a pretty good Friday. Like I got a couple albums, some music dropped. I got
Drake's album is out.
Drake's album is out, and he's really trying to enter the European club scene, which you gotta appreciate. Logic dropped a new album that has 30 songs for some reason. They all sound the same.
I thought he retired.
It's Logic. Of course he didn't retire. This man can't retire.
Streamer now.
Logic dropped more music in his retirement than actual rappers dropped during their career.
Wait,
it's
he's dropped more music since then?
Last year he dropped a mixtape. Like
what?
Coming out of I don't Logic dropped so much music. He just dropped a 30-song album. I started listening to it and I was like, I don't have time for this. It's like good music. Like it's the boom bap sound. He like has some cool features on there. Like Action Bronson is on there. Royce the 5'9" is on there. It's good stuff. But I'm also like 30 songs? Really, my guy? On the same day as Drake? That's not his fault. You know, Drake kind of screwed him there. But even still. And then Chance the Rapper dropped a song. Chance the Rapper song, really good. Actually, a really good song. I really liked it. But yeah, New Music Fridays is on fire. And then also Amori, we talked about it on PS Love You that went up this morning. Amori, new game dropped. And I bought it 30 minutes before it was available for free on Xbox Game Pass. They dropped it surprise drop on Xbox Game Pass.
Were you going to play it on Xbox though, or were you going to want to play it on your Steam Deck?
Well, here's the thing. Yesterday, I went and I figured out how to actually connect Xbox Cloud Gaming through my Steam Deck because I was like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
There's a whole library here. I want to figure out how to make this work. It took quite a few attempts. I was like getting one specific step wrong and I couldn't make it work until I did make it work. And let me tell you, Xbox Cloud Gaming on the Steam Deck is dope as hell. Like I booted up Amori and I was like, fuck, this is like playing it, native. And it is like through Wi-Fi and all that stuff, and it worked pretty well. Like I tried switching to Forza Horizon 5, and that's where I really noticed, okay, this is cloud. But even still, it was really playable. I was very surprised by it. And so if you have a Steam Deck and you're looking to get access to your Xbox Game Pass library, definitely check out Xbox Cloud Gaming. Like set that up. That'll help you out a lot. And also Microsoft has a whole page dedicated to helping you out, like with all the steps and stuff. But yeah, no, it's an exciting Friday. I got that, got Neon White, got TMNT. Yep. Very excited to get off the show and experience all those things.
Yeah, same.
Hell yeah. Well, enough about that. Let's talk about today's stories, which include Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 getting announced, Dragon's Dogma 2 getting announced, and more getting announced, because this is Kind of Funny Games Daily, each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. If you're watching live, you can correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindafunny.com/you're wrong. If you don't want to watch live, you can watch later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching for Kinda Funny Games Daily. Remember, you can use Epic Creator Code Kinda Funny on all Epic Store and Epic in-game purchases like Rocket League and Fortnite to help support the channel. To be a part of the show, to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad-free with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you, merch of the month is here, designed by Campfire Design. Bring your summer vibe to another level with our KF Summer Collection that is available right now on kindafunny.com/store. Barrett's showing it right now if you're a video watching. Let me tell you, this bucket hat, it's fresh. I'm not a bucket hat person, but I'll rock this bucket hat.
Hats have been coming back for years at this point, Blessing. And
yeah?
It's really peaking up right now. Bless, I had like one of the coolest bucket hats like a while back. This was probably 6 years back. And it was just like this grossly...
I feel like it's an oxymoron. The coolest bucket hat?
Yeah, the coolest bucket hat. And it was just this terribly designed bucket hat with just like all of the Pokemon you could ever think of, just like all like kind of cropped.
That's a cool bucket hat.
But it was one of those like it's so badly designed that it was like kind of cool, you know? Like,
I love
like
that. I would rock that,
but not ironic, you know?
Are you a hat guy, Bless?
No, it depends. Like I do like the like flat brim hats sometimes. Like, I have a closet full of a bunch of hats, but like ever since I started growing out my hair more, I felt less inclined to rock hats because I don't want to like
fair.
mess up the messy situation I already have up here. But like, you know, if it matches, I do have a hat that matches this exact shirt that I could get on my closet and actually rock. If I'm gonna get the hat, I'm gonna get the hat. I'm gonna get the hat.
While
Oh my god,
Blessing
we're gonna
does
see
that, I
hat
do want to.
Blessing.
Yeah, I do want to show off the shirt because like a little farther away, it's harder to tell. But if we zoom in, it's made up of all the kind of funny smileys. Look at that.
It's given the PS5 design where you look at it and it has the symbols on there.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't notice that actually when I first saw it. Yeah, that's cool. I like a more subtle vibe to it. I think it's cool.
Blessing, I'm gonna be honest. I want you to take that hat off.
It almost matches too much, right? It's like, oh shit, you got the shirt with the hat.
Can we do a poll in the chat? Like, don't leave the hat on the whole show, but can we do a poll in the chat on like, is he pulling off this hat? Because I'm still not sure.
You don't think I'm pulling off the hat?
I think you're pulling off the hat. I would vote
the
yes.
way you're wearing it, at least right now, it's one of those ones where it looks like it's too small for your head.
Oh, it's definitely not.
But it looks.
I mean, I think it might be my hair.
Like it.
Like my hair might be pushing up.
Maybe you just lean into it. Like, you know what I mean? Like
my hair.
You're drawing too much attention to it.
Your hair looks too good. Don't be me where I wear my hat too much and then my hair always looks like shit.
Are you gonna make it a bucket hat summer? I'm down to have a bucket hat summer. Jen, are you with me?
Am I down to have I don't know. I mean, I do have to go clothes shopping soon. I don't know. I want to I want to wear more hats, but I don't know if I'm doing a whole like revamp. So hit me up in like 2 weeks and we'll see how I come out the other side of that.
Very excited for the Janet Garcia revamp.
I thought it was thick boy summer, but you know, we can have that discussion somewhere else.
I mean, it's a lot of summer.
It's filtering in and out, you know. It's a couple things.
Going forward with more housekeeping, a new PSILY XOXO is live, and it's all about Last of Us Part 1 and our deeper thoughts on it. You can catch that right now on youtube.com/kindafunnygames and on podcast services around the globe. And then a new episode of the Kinda Funny podcast is live, and we decide what the official drink of Kinda Funny is, which I thought we already decided that. I thought that was LaCroix. I thought that was a thing we already decided.
New conversation about what the official like drink of Kinda Funny is. And maybe it's the thumbnail? But maybe it isn't.
Whoa.
Who knows?
Whoa. Who knows? You can catch that, of course, on youtube.com/kindafunny and on podcast services around the globe. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Gordon McGuire and Fargo Brady. Today, we're brought to you by Shopify and Athletic Greens, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 5 stories today.
Baker's dozen.
I almost accidentally said 1 story because I was all over the place. I was going through the doc making sure the 5 was right, and then I got to the top and I was like, I started number 1, and I got messed up. Story number 1. We got a whole bunch of Final Fantasy VII news. This comes from Casey David Weir Taylor at IGN. Square Enix has revealed the first trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, and it is officially called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Revealed during Square Enix's 25th anniversary event for the original Final Fantasy, the second part in the company's planned multi-part series will release next winter in 2023. And I don't know if they officially. This is me outside of the IGN article. I don't think they officially said 2023. They just said next winter. But jumping back to the article, Rebirth appears to divert dramatically from the plot of Final Fantasy VII, where it was left off in Remake. Keeping with the ways in which Remake already indicated the sequence of events might not be the same as fans of the original remember. In the trailer, we got to see a lot of Crisis Core's Zack Fair, for instance, who was supposed to have died at the end of the original Crisis Core, but was set up for an appearance during Remake. Since we also got an announcement of a Crisis Core remake called Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion today, it's likely we see all these stories dovetail into something new and unexpected. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade was also announced today for Steam on June 17th as well, and is compatible with the Steam Deck. Final Fantasy VII has become a sub-series all of its own in recent years, with Ever Crisis, a remake in a very different form, Final Soldier, a mobile battle royale, and even more spin-offs promised. Square Enix is also working on Final Fantasy 16, as well as providing ongoing updates for Final Fantasy 14. Janet Garcia, you played through Final Fantasy 7 Remake. How excited are you for both, not Ever Crisis, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7 Reunion, a ridiculous title, and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth?
I guess like I'd lean more heavily on Rebirth just because everything else, it's like my entry point into Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Like that's the only one I've played, so everything else I am not as sure about, even though like my feelings on Final Fantasy 7, and I've mentioned this on, probably KFGD at one point, and definitely PS I Love You. Love the combat, love the mechanics and the systems. Don't love the story. Don't know what's going on. It's at the point where if you spoiled it for me, how would I know? You know what I mean? Like it's all kind of messy. But I'm really excited for Rebirth because I just wasn't expecting it so soon. Like we had Intergrade, and that definitely gave an indicator that, okay, we're moving along. But when this was first kind of talked about, it seemed like such a big and also sort of unknown quantity in that we haven't seen a remake done in this like fashion, I don't think, where it's sort of not just reimagined, but also broken up into additional pieces to kind of construct something that might be really different than what we had before. We don't really know. And then when they initially talked about it too, it was a lot of, we don't know how many parts it is. We don't know how long it's going to take. Like we're here for the ride and you're here with us. So yeah. I'm pretty surprised to see that it's coming out so soon. And that just generally with this IP, they're having such an aggressive push in terms of the content they're putting out and the cadence of that content, which is, really cool. I mean, like I said, Final Fantasy VII Remake, super critically acclaimed. And even with my criticisms of it, I do have respect for a lot of what it does. So yeah, like I was really surprised by this. I never would have thought it would come out this quickly. And now I think it's interesting too, because like the crystal ball of game of the year, like top 10 or like, award category stuff for 2023 is kind of starting to take a little bit of shape. Obviously, you never know how a game is until you actually play it, so I don't want to start giving it its flowers because it hasn't come out yet. But it's nice now that we're starting to see also how 2023 what it might have in store for us. But what about you? What's your excitement for this? Are you going to play all of these? Some of these? You said you're going to dip back maybe into the old ones to see what's going on. Like what's up? What are you up to?
I'm very excited. I'm similar to you, where Final Fantasy VII Remake was the first Final Fantasy game that really made me fall in love with a Final Fantasy entry. Like I had tried plenty of Final Fantasy games in the past, and none of them really could do it right. Like I tried 13, I did try Original 7 back in the day, and like by that time I felt like I had just the game was too old. I felt like it hadn't aged as well as I would have wanted it to for something that I wanted to try out and go through all the way. And then I tried out 14 with friends, couldn't get into that, and I at that point decided that Final Fantasy just wasn't my franchise. Final Fantasy VII Remake brought me in, made me fall in love, and made me so excited for the future of Final Fantasy VII that right after I beat Remake, I immediately picked up Final Fantasy VII, the original PS1 game, on PS4 and started playing through it. And I got about 15 hours in. I got far enough to where I was like, all right, I'm way past the remake content. And now I'm deep into, I don't know where to go anymore, right? Like I am lost. And if I don't pick up guides and start playing alongside with a guide, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And so I fell off for that reason. Now, after watching these new trailers, I'm like, shit, man, I might pick Final Fantasy VII back up, because the way that they're treating this one entry of the Final Fantasy series, right? Final Fantasy VII, the way they treat it with such reverence, in a way where it is its own franchise that, has so many entries in it, like it by itself. I think this is so impressive, and I think it's really exciting for people that do really love Final Fantasy VII, because I remember back in the day talking to friends who were like, oh man, Final Fantasy VII is the greatest game of all time. That was always the back and forth, right? If you're a Nintendo kid like me, right, you're like, oh man, Ocarina of Time is the greatest game ever made. Whereas the PlayStation kids were like, oh man, Final Fantasy VII is the greatest game ever made. It was always this back and forth conversation. And I had one of those friends that was such a Final Fantasy VII person, and I wanted to understand it. And now I've gotten to get into Final Fantasy VII Remake, finish it, beat it. I'm like at that point where I'm like, oh no, I get it. You know, like I like there are moments in that game that made me tear up. I mean, there's no way I can get to that point, right? Like I didn't play Final Fantasy VII the original in 1997, you know, so I don't think I could ever get to that mindset. That said, Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably like one of my favorite games, right? Like it's in my top 30 probably of games that I've played ever. Like I legitimately teared up in moments of that game, right? And I think a lot of that comes back to like combat and exploration, all that stuff. I really enjoyed how that game plays. I really liked the combat system, but then also just the characters and like the emotions expressed in their face, and like Barrett when he's looking for his daughter, and like the fucking
I don't have a daughter.
Barrett Courtney when he was looking for his daughter. Like there are so many good moments in Final Fantasy VII Remake that I still think back. That's you know, Barrett, and I still think back to where I'm like, God damn, was that a good game? Like that was one of those experiences that I put alongside my first time playing like Last of Us, or my first time playing God of War. Like I view Final Fantasy VII Remake as being a part of that. And so for the fact that we're going to get, or seemingly get, unless it gets delayed, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion this winter, and then the winter after Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 Rebirth. Oh my God, like I am ecstatic. I'm so excited.
Let's talk about that winter. When do you think realistically this means for both of those games?
I think for Crisis Core, I think they might be aiming for the end of this year, but I think realistically we see it early next year. I want to say February, March is when we see Crisis Core, and I think that means that 7 Rebirth will probably be early 2024.
Yeah,
I gotta imagine. This is me reeling back my expectations, because you also got to think, right? Forspoken seemingly this fall, right? Like Final Fantasy 16 is coming out next year. Like, are you gonna have 3 Final Fantasy games if Crisis Core and then 16 and then Rebirth all come out? Like I think they're gonna want to spread that out a little bit.
And to be clear to chat, because the chat's like, oh, it's gonna get delayed and it'll be pushed to 2024. It's like next winter. They don't say winter 2023. They say next winter, implying of like literally the December to March time period of December 2023 to March 2024. So I think that is realistically like what they're targeting right now, even without the thought of a delay, is probably February or March 2024.
Now, on this topic, I want to bring in a question from the nanobiologist who writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like you can, and says, hey, y'all, Final Fantasy VII Remake's 2 new games are coming out this winter and next winter. While this is awesome, what do you think has changed at Square's developers to be able to produce these sequels much more quickly? Does this give hope regarding when we'll get Kingdom Hearts 4? Finally, is Reunion coming to everything giving hope that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or he says Final Fantasy VII R, which we can't call it Final Fantasy VII R anymore. You got to actually choose one.
R series, the FF7R series.
The FF7R franchise will eventually come to all platforms after platform exclusivity ends. Thanks, Nano. So let's start at the top, right? What do you think has changed at Square to make it so that they're able to churn out these games a bit more quickly?
I think maybe just prioritization and like how they've divided up the teams and what they feel like they next want to work on. Like I think you can, well, I don't want to say you can get anything done, because obviously there's like limitations to things, but I think with Kingdom Hearts, like does this give hope to Kingdom Hearts coming out faster? No, I wouldn't say so. If anything, I think that's a slow burn, and has been. I think if anything, now looking back, and obviously like it's easy to say this with the hindsight of now seeing how quickly this cadence is lined up, but they sort of, it now makes sense when you think of Integrate in context, where when Integrate came out, I was like, this is like, I was surprised that came out as well, because I'm like, I don't know what the like DLC to part of a remake of one game, like it just seemed really odd. Like it seemed like it was even stranger than the original idea they had. But I think now looking back, that was their kind of slow rolled plan of, we want you to constantly be talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake or some Final Fantasy VII R, right, this R series, because we're going to keep giving you bits of content and conversations. And like, it seems like since that game came out, the conversation has never completely stopped because there's always been a little something to talk about. But yeah, obviously without like having more insight to how they go about that, you know, it's impossible to pinpoint, but that would just be my guess, like a, you know, division of labor, and then also like the strategization on how they want to get everything done. And then I imagine like too, it's still of the same game. Like they have, obviously they're changing things, but like they have probably more of a through line than like making something from complete scratch. So I imagine that also has like a positive impact in terms of the speed in which they can produce these games.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I think a big part of it is prioritization, right? Final Fantasy VII is not just a game now; it is a franchise, and so let's treat it like a franchise where we can have iterations coming out on a consistent basis. And then I think when you greenlight Final Fantasy VII Remake, and when you greenlight it being a multi-part series, you're doing that, planning it out from the start of, hey, we are going to work off of the same engine for all these games. We are going to spend time on this first one, making sure that it is built off a foundation that can then be taken and used for the rest of the games. I assume that the combat system is going to be very similar throughout all these games. I assume that the models, like the presentation, all that is going to look very similar between these games. I'm sure some of these games will look better than others because we're in a new generation, and Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, I believe, is Unreal Engine 4. I believe they're probably going to transition to Unreal Engine 5 for future iterations. Those are still both Unreal Engine, and I think that transition is going to be very smooth. But yeah, like you're going to get those games hopefully looking and running even better once we get to Rebirth, and once we get to the third iteration of that. But yeah, like I think these are all working on the same bones. I'll think about it in the same terms as you would think about a Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask, where Majora's Mask came out like a year after Ocarina of Time, and that is because Majora's Mask is basically a remixed Ocarina of Time, right? Take those assets, you know, find new ways to like not even spruce it up, but like, you know, add in more creative ideas.
Literally, the time loop mechanic in that game was made to help them not make new assets and stuff like that, and just like keep reusing the same ones.
Yeah, and I think
Final Fantasy VII Remake the remaster.
Remake the we'll that'll happen. We're gonna get that by the PlayStation 6. But yeah, like I do think it is for them a lot of, no man, we have the assets, we have the models, like we are gonna be reusing a lot of stuff from the previous games, and I think it's gonna be fine because they are coming out so close to each other. I don't think anybody's expecting from the ground up brand new recreations of what Final Fantasy VII Remake is, right? Like people just want another iteration in that series, and so I think with that, it's gonna work pretty well for them.
The last question I have: does the Remake trilogy ever come to Xbox?
Oh yeah, that's actually another Nano's questions. It's interesting because Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, again, ridiculous title, is coming to everything, right? It's coming to PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and Steam. But it seems like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is not, and Final Fantasy VII
only listed for PS5 at the bottom.
Only listed for PS5. Intergrade, of course, is now on Steam, but isn't coming to Xbox yet. I don't know. I think when it's all said and done, you see it come to Xbox. But maybe during the process of them actually coming out, the PS5 has.
I see something happening.
I think one day everything comes to Xbox.
I think I see something going on in my mind's eye here.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of theorized about this like right off the heels of the live stream yesterday and our Reacts content, that whatever exclusivity deal that Sony made with Square included some sort of like bullet point of like, these can't come to other console platforms until all parts are out, or, you know, one part can't come out to other platforms until the next part is out. I think it's one or the other in that scenario. So maybe Xbox finally sees Final Fantasy VII Remake once Rebirth comes out. Or you guys, or Xbox fans don't get any of them until the entire trilogy is out, and then even by then, has Sony bought Square Enix at that point, and then it's all.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. The other thing is, I do think that at some point Sony will probably buy Square Enix. I think it's inevitable, and so yeah, once that happens, does Xbox actually ever get Final Fantasy VII Remake? That's gonna be the question. But I think right now, yeah, there is some ink on paper somewhere that is, hey, until all these games come out, like we have this deal, or yeah, until the next one comes out in the series, that's when you can go back and put out the previous one. I think that makes sense.
Because the fact that like Crisis Core was everywhere, and in the same conference they only say Rebirth PS5, like there is some sort of like, they're not saying it openly, but there is a subtle like, yeah, the 7 remake titles specifically have some sort of exclusive deal.
Mm. I also do want to going back to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for a second, talking about that trailer a little bit. One of the things that we talked about a little bit, but didn't get to actually expand on yesterday when we did our live reaction to it. Holy shit! Like this game looks wild, right? Like you got the scene of Cloud walking next to Sephiroth and then walking around, and like of course that seems like this seems like it is right when you get out of the original city in Final Fantasy VII, and you get into the open area, and then you're exploring. You get the flashbacks with Cloud and Sephiroth. You imagine that that's what's going on here, but also this looks like it could be open, like if not open world, at least like open area type gameplay, which is huge, especially when we're talking about these games being churned out at such a quick pace. Like, if you're telling me you've designed this game with big open areas in mind, because that's how Final Fantasy VII, the original game, progressed, right? Like, you start off in that city and then you leave, and all of a sudden everything's open in this overworld. Like, that's insane if they're able to pull that off. That's the thing that I'm really excited to see about it.
I just want to see more big birds.
I do want to see those big birds too.
And Big Bird was really good. That was like the dance at the club and that mission where you find the cats.
Yeah,
that mission was cool. I mean, I always go back to the plate falling. Like I want to go back and just play that chapter of the plate falling, because that shit was drama. That shit was poetry. Thank you, Bear, for bringing up Big Bird.
I also I played so much of that
Big
game.
Bird, I gave you Big Bird.
Thank you. I played so much of that game. I'll try to, obviously we're gonna move on, but like I'll try to look up my hours played, because I worked on the guide alongside Casey and a freelancer that I'm now forgetting the name of. I'm sorry. I want to say Brian Burnett, but now I'm not sure. But my assignment was the side quests, and the worst thing about being a side quest in a guide is it means you have to also do the main quest, because you can't get to the side quest until you do all the main quests. So I did I played a lot of that game. I played almost every side quest. So yeah, I was living in there. So it'll be kind of fun to not have to do that.
Get ready to live in Final Fantasy VII for a while, because these games are going to be coming out. It seems like yearly at this point. What's
the third game called?
We don't know yet.
No, guess.
Oh, okay.
Guessing. I put on Twitter Final Fantasy VII Requiem, just because I think it sounds good. Sick, and also like Requiem is like like you're seeing something off, kind of like it has those vibes.
I like
the only thing is that they are leading it to the remake, Rebirth. Requiem, you can't say
Reverse.
Requiem.
Yeah.
Reverse.
Someone says resolution in the chat. Someone else says reborn, which is probably that's probably a good one.
I do like the idea.
I like Cameron Kennedy's idea.
Guessing them.
I like Cameron Kennedy's idea that just to make everyone go insane. The last one is just called Final Fantasy VII Part 3.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. I hope so.
I would love that. I love that so much. Final Fantasy VII Revengeance. Give it to me. For now, let's move on to story number 2. That's not it for video game announcements. Capcom is developing a Dragon's Dogma sequel. This is Jay Peters at The Verge. Capcom is developing a sequel to its 2012 high fantasy action RPG Dragon's Dogma, the company announced on Thursday. There are few official details, but we do know the title, Dragon's Dogma 2, and that it'll take advantage of Capcom's RE engine, which has been used for many of the studio's recent games. Director Hideaki Itsuno announced the new game at the end of a video looking back on the creation of the original Dragon's Dogma. And the funny thing is, they were doing this Dragon's Dogma anniversary stream at the same exact time as the Final Fantasy VII anniversary stream. So both these games got announced at the same time, and I logged off of the Final Fantasy thing, went on Twitter, and saw everybody getting excited about Dragon's Dogma. And I was like, whoa, what happened? Oh, and Drake announced a new album. What's happening today? But cool. Dragon's Dogma fans are eating. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think this is pretty dope, and that it seems highly requested from the Dragon's Dogma community. I'm also a fan of any announcement that involves unzipping a zipped sweatshirt to unveil the t-shirt underneath.
And it's such a hype cut too. The way that they shoot it is so hilarious.
I want to. Why have I never announced? How there's always those freaking life posts of oh, I'm announcing that I'm at this thing or I'm leaving this thing. I need to start getting t-shirts made for that shit, because
that's how you should have announced that you're gonna be on PS Love You.
That thing is so lit. That's one of my favorite cheesy ways to unveil something. The t-shirt reveal, the best. So yeah, shout out to this. Now I'm wondering I have so many things in my backlog, but it does make me kind of want to go and at least check out a little bit of the original, because it is a game that I think I've heard a lot of positivity around, especially during the never-ending Elden Ring hype cycle, people mentioning, hey, if you want more fantasy stuff, action RPG, check out Dragon's Dogma. It's got some good stuff. So now for it having a sequel, yeah, it's pretty cool. And Capcom really just came through. with stuff, which was pretty crazy. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, in a weird way, like even though Capcom had one of the worst showcases, I feel like they've had some of the best presence during the Summer Game Fest when you're talking about Street Fighter 6, this, and like quite a few of the other stuff they got going on, right? Like a lot of people are into Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak as well.
Yeah.
And all the Resident Evil shit as well, right? Like they've been killing it this summer in terms of the actual content that they have to show.
Yes.
And I'm surprised that like this wasn't there, right? Like this wasn't at either a showcase or at like Summer Game Fest or at PlayStation State of Play. Like I feel like Dragon's Dogma 2 is a big enough deal to where you would have it.
That's what I don't like about like the summer, like, and this isn't like Summer Game Fest's fault necessarily, but like whenever it's not E3, it's always like 2 months long for some reason. Everyone's like, what if I just kind of did my own thing whenever it was hot outside? And I'm like, I want it to be more like compacted, but anyway.
Well, if you want a good, compact collection of great features and great content, you should go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where you can go and get the show ad-free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I've been using AG1 the last few months because I figured it was well past time I start thinking about vitamins, but I'm usually not the biggest fan of their format. So being able to drink a flavored water is much more up my alley. And I'm a huge fan here of the fact that it doesn't taste super healthy. It kind of has like this mild tropical taste to it that I look forward to every morning. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved only for big businesses to everyone. So upstarts, startups, established businesses, content creators alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed, from down the street to across the globe. Our content creator friends use Shopify to manage all their merch sales and stuff, and I recently got Gia a pair of Allbirds from the Allbirds website, which also uses Shopify. So that's an example of big websites using Shopify for their sales. You can gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting on conversion rates, profit margins, and to help you supercharge your knowledge of your sales and your success. You can go to shopify.com/kfgames, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial, and you can get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/kfgames right now. That's shopify.com/kfgames for a free 14-day trial. Shopify.com/kfgames.
Story number 3, Janet. Activision Blizzard internal review finds no evidence it ignored harassment. This is Brendan Sinclair at gamesindustry.biz. Activision Blizzard today released a summary of an internal review that found no evidence company's senior executives looked the other way on harassment claims. Quote, contrary to many of the allegations, the board and its external advisors have determined that there is no evidence to suggest that Activision Blizzard's senior executives ever intentionally ignored or attempted to downplay the instances of gender harassment that occurred and were reported, the report said. The report did not address the Wall Street Journal's reporting that Activision Blizzard's CEO, Bobby Kotick, overruled an HR department determination that a co-head of Treyarch be fired over an allegation of sexual harassment. Quote, the review of contemporaneous documentation and statements by relevant individuals shows that the media criticism of the board and Activision Blizzard senior executives as insensitive to workplace matters is without merit, the company said. It acknowledged that there were, quote, some substantiated instances of gender harassment, but said there were not evidence of systemic problems. It also pointed to external advisors that it said agreed with the board of directors' findings. Quote, over the years, the company has appropriately disciplined and exited employees to ensure that our practices match our policies, it said. Quote, there simply is no room at Activision Blizzard for anyone who does not practice our corporate value of providing a safe, inclusive, and welcoming workplace that serves as a model for our industry, end quote. The report did not address a report that Kotick himself once threatened to have an assistant killed, something the company called a quote, obviously hyperbolic and inappropriate voicemail that Kotick had already apologized for. Nor did it address an arbitration settlement Kotick reached when a flight attendant on a private jet he co-owned alleged he fired her for complaining about sexual harassment. Beyond the results of the internal review, Activision Blizzard listed reforms it has made, like quadrupling the size of its ethics and compliance team since the DFEH suit was filed, instituting a zero-tolerance harassment policy, waiving mandatory arbitration for individual sexual harassment and discrimination claims for incidents occurring after October 28th of 2021, and, quote, making progress in ensuring there are diverse slates of candidates for all open positions, end quote, even though the company fought a shareholder proposal on that issue early last year. This is basically, and that's the end of the article, right? This is basically Activision Blizzard being like, hey, man, we did nothing wrong. Don't worry about it, all right? It was all good. We checked, we looked in our room. No bodies in there. No bodies in our closet. We checked, it looks clean. Don't worry about it. Don't come in here, though, but, don't worry about it.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think to the sort of the differentiation of like having there's some substantiated instances of gender harassment, but said there was not evidence of systemic problems. I feel like that is just such an easy gray spot because you can just kind of argue that, these are like one-off instances.
Exactly.
Like, sure, this happened, but it's not systematic. It's like, and who said it wasn't systematic? We did, about ourselves. And granted, they do say that they have some, people outside of the board also weighing in on this. But the fact that, I did see a lot of people talking about, and I saw, Barrett pull up the fan bite sort of lead into their own reporting on this, saying like, I have found I've done nothing wrong, a kind of situation. Which it's unfortunate that this is sort of, I think, the process for coming to this conclusion, because I think it is one that many justifiably so find unsatisfactory in terms of really doing the due diligence, I think, to really researching and thinking about what qualifies as systematic and having people that don't have a vested interest in the results coming out as we did nothing wrong being involved in it. I think it's just an additional layer of the unfortunate circumstance surrounding it. And I think it sucks that the report didn't address these things that are pointed out, because they're really, really terrible, and definitely should have been at least been included in that. So
it comes back to like the role of HR being to protect the company and not the people that work at the company. Like, this is upsetting, but it's not necessarily surprising. Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to a tweet from Imran Khan. Imran quoted Fanbyte's write-up of this, and he said, so the reason they did this is because the investors are about to vote on whether they're satisfied with how Activision has been handling the harassment claims. If they are, and it's rigged that they will be, Kotick gets his old salary back and a $22 million bonus.
Fuck, so yeah, this to the end of time, dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so like, this is 100% them being like, all right, like, how do we get Kotick's money back? All right, cool. Let's just, let's say we didn't find shit, right? Because they didn't really look for shit. And to your point, Janet, right? Like, it is also them being like, hey, it was one-off instances. It seems like there's nothing systemic going on. I think the one thing that I will say I'm still thankful for is that there are still people doing the work to make sure that all of the bad shit sees the light of day at Activision, and I believe they're still like, undergoing like investigation by from like multiple different people looking into all the shit going on there. And so hopefully we see good stuff come out of that. But that is your Activision Blizzard update for the week. Story number 4, in some lighter news, Epic launches crossplay tools for Steam and Steam and Epic Game Store. This is Danielle Pardis at gamesindustry.biz. Epic Games has announced a new crossplay tool that'll let developers connect their games and communities across different storefronts and platforms. As it stands, 2 players that own the same game on 2 different storefronts cannot play with each other. With this tool, developers can enable crossplay across 2 services. In a blog post, Epic also said the tool will also let players roll their friends lists across multiple platforms into one single list, as well as offer search tools and game invites across the 2 launchers. The tool currently works between the Epic Game Store and Steam, but console and mobile functionality is also in the works. Quote, crossplay gives all friends the opportunity to come together and create fond memories across interactive experiences, said Epic's Senior Director of Online Services, Simon allies. Quote, we are in the fortunate position to drive change in the industry with crossplay tools for all developers, and we believe that connecting friends and communities will take the gaming industry to its next major growth spurt and its next billion players, end quote. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, well, obviously there are challenges that go into making crossplay work, so I don't want to act like it's, just flip the switch and turn it on for everybody and it's going to be great. But I like that crossplay is becoming so much more standardized in the industry. It's something that I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of us couldn't have imagined back when we were still living okay, well, where are you getting this thing on? Okay, we all got to be on the same thing, because if not, I feel like now it just seems so antiquated. And I like that now when games come out. I mean, it still is unfortunate that there are plenty of games that come out that don't have crossplay. But it's now like a standard question to ask about it, and there's a little bit of that expectation and that pressure on teams to figure out ways to make that work. And I think for across like Epic and Steam is super convenient, just because I feel like in a way there's probably like a lot of beefs people have with like Epic and the Epic launcher, etc. For me, I've never really been super invested in that because I barely play on PC to begin with, and I'm like, whatever, I'll just go wherever to get whatever I have, whether it's like the free games on Epic or it's through Steam. But just kind of making that simpler and kind of removing, I feel like, one of the complaints that was there in terms of needing to have that split between Epic and Steam. It's super convenient. So yeah, giving more people ways to play and making it easier to, I think, enjoy those multiplayer experiences, because the worst thing is when you just feel like you don't have the means to get people together to try out something that you're interested in. So kind of removing those barriers is going to be helpful for everyone involved.
100%. Yeah, like you mentioned how it always sucks when you have a game and somebody has it on another platform, you're not able to play it with each other. I think it even sucks more when you're both on PC. It's like, yo, we're on the same platform. Why can't I play with my friend because he has the game on Epic and I have the game on Steam? Like, this is fucking dumb. And so I like that Epic takes the steps to try and make this a regular thing of us being able to connect to each other even though we're on different platforms. And like part of it is, Epic's always been about this. This has very much been like an Epic effort in terms of them really trying to make crossplay a more regular thing. And it's good for them because Epic Game Store obviously isn't as popular as Steam. And so the more and more they're able to kind of bring down the walls of people wanting to be on Steam or wanting to stay on Steam because that's where their friends are and that's how they're going to play with their friends, the more viable, the better it's going to be for Epic in the long run. But even still, like, business sometimes will drive like good features, right, and like innovation, and I'm down with business driving innovation in this way because I want this to happen. I want crossplay to be a regular thing, and I want more PC ecosystems to work together. I forget if I said this before the show or at the top of the show, right? Like I talked about Steam Deck and be able to get Xbox Game Pass on. I think it was on the show. But like I had to jump through quite a few hoops, right? It wasn't the most difficult thing in the world, but it also wasn't the most easy thing in the world. Basically, what I had to do to get Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Cloud Gaming to work on my Steam Deck was go into the Linux launcher, download Microsoft Edge, add Edge to my Steam library, and then add in a script that'll like size it perfectly to where now, cool, if I open up Microsoft Edge that I've like renamed as Xbox Game Cloud my thing, it automatically goes to the Xbox Game Cloud page, right? And like it works now as intended, but I'm basically playing off of Microsoft Edge, and it was such an annoying hassle to have to go out and do that. It would be such a dope ass move for Xbox/Microsoft to work with Steam to go, how do we get these games on Steam Deck? How do we not even make it just through xCloud, but where you can have these games downloaded on your Steam Deck through Xbox Game Pass? Like, what do we need to do to make that happen? And maybe that's a big step. Maybe that's too big of a step because, money is going into different pockets in that scenario. But, steps like that makes gaming, I think, better and easier for everyone, at least on the audience side, right? Having that ease of access, being able to do things like get like Ubisoft Connect or EA, the EA launcher, all that stuff on my machine in a way that's easy to do, right? Like that is going to be so beneficial for audiences. And I want to see PC ecosystems work together in that way because as of now, I feel like there's so much that feels so arbitrarily divvied up because Ubisoft doesn't want to cut a check to Steam or Rockstar doesn't want to cut a check to Epic or whoever because they want to make 100% of the profits of their game. That stuff can get really annoying from an audience perspective. So I hope to see more stuff like this happen in the future.
You're leading up the PC community now with your Steam Deck.
Right, I've had a Steam Deck for a month,
you're like
and
I'm
trying to be the voice of PC.
Over on PC, one of something plaguing our culture.
Like, you're gonna see me like slowly like start to talk less on PS I Love You, and then all of a sudden PC podcast gets announced. It's
what
me.
Would be the name of
it's Andy Cortez.
The Steam Deck cast. We have too many cast names. It can be cast.
Deck Boys, maybe. On deck. There was one that somebody threw at me like a year ago or whatever. That was like they were roasting me on PS Love You because they're like, "Oh, you talk about PC too much." Which I was like, "Do I?" Because I feel like I never talk about PC. But they're like, "Oh, is this PS I Love You XOXO or is it PC I Love You Alt Tab Alt Tab?" But I read that and I was like, "Yo, that's kind of fire."
That's a fire name.
No, it is.
That's a fire name.
Call
like,
Greg,
I might have to
canceling
take
the
that.
PlayStation show.
I'm out of here. No more God of War Ragnarok for me, except when
we
it
can
does
talk about the first
PC.
God of War.
Yeah, I can talk about the first God of War. I can talk
There you
about
go.
Spider-Man this fall. That's the thing is the move for me and you, Janet. We need to become PC players, start a PC podcast, and we can just talk about games we've already played.
Where's the Nintendo podcast? I'll be damned if there's a PC
There's
show
never enough
here before Nintendo.
content to talk about,
It's called Kind of Funny Games Cast, Janet.
Yeah.
All right, people listen to it. We talk about the one Nintendo game that comes out a month on there. That's the other thing is like one, we need people. We have Tim Geddes, but like Tim Geddes busy. He's doing reviews. He's watching Marvel movies. He's watching The Boys. He's podcasting about The Boys, I think, right now.
Well, all of us sharing that one code that Nintendo maybe sends.
That's the other thing is that Nintendo only sends one code, and so you're gonna have one person on every episode of the Nintendo cast. But I digress. Let's round out the Roper Report with story number 5. Housemarque wants to put canned Returnal ideas into its next game. This comes from Jordan Midler at Video Games Chronicle. Housemarque's senior narrative designer has told VGC that the studio plans to incorporate ideas and narrative systems originally planned for Returnal into its next original game. Speaking to VGC in a soon-to-be-published interview, Evie Koronen discussed the future of the studio and what excites her about working at the Finland-based developer going forward. Housemarque confirmed it was working on a new IP with PlayStation earlier this year. Quote, Returnal was so ambitious, Koronen told VGC. Quote, we dreamt super big, but we still had to leave so much on the cutting room floor. All of these ideas in narrative systems. All these ideas in narrative systems. I'm super excited to pick up those pieces and see how those fit our new IP story. We didn't quite have the handle on how big Returnal was going to be. Building for a new platform on a new engine with a new team. All those things require some learning. Now we have that team that has gone through the fire and learned how to build a game like Returnal. So now we get to start off stronger. End quote. Koronen also talked about the lessons that she learned and the team learned during the development of Returnal and in creating Housemarque's first large narrative game. Quote, I think we've learned the importance of pacing and how difficult that is in a roguelike game, Koronen said. Quote, it's very hard to control and say how, now we hit them with this perfect story beat. That's kind of the beauty of linear games. You get to control that absolutely perfectly. Letting go of that and somehow building the sandbox or the playground for players in a way that means certain story blocks become available is challenging, end quote. Jane, are you excited for whatever this next new IP is from Housemarque?
Yeah, I'm always excited for new IP. I don't even care if it comes out good or not. I'm like, just give me the new. Yeah, especially because I didn't really get into Returnal just because it's genre-wise, it didn't really fit for me. I couldn't dodge all the little projectiles and things. And
you're not bullet hell person, are you?
No, I can't do. I can only do bullet hell when it's. I guess I really can't do bullet hell, to be honest, but like it's a lot. Like the pattern recognition is a lot. I can do like shmups, but not bullet hell shmups. Anyway, so yeah, the idea of picking up, I do think I liked though the general sort of motifs they were playing with, the trippy stuff with like the house and sort of like I think they had a lot of cool narrative threads and world building here. And I think the idea of them taking things that didn't quite fit and using them in a new game is exciting. And I also think that doesn't necessarily mean that what we're going to experience from a new IP is guaranteed to like feel like Returnal or even be reminiscent of it. It could just be an idea for a mechanic and then they kind of build from there and think of, the story that fits around it or vice versa, or like a section that they wanted to build that they realized didn't fit into the larger piece that was Returnal. I imagine that this is true of most studios as well. I mean, it's kind of like I think it's a little fun fact and then kind of a reminder of, hey, yeah, they're working on new IP and we can kind of start to dream about what this could be. But yeah, I imagine most things are like this. I mean, I've written articles like that where you ever write something and then, if there's two ideas and then you break it out into like separate pieces, it's like the same kind of concept. So yeah, I'm down for this. I really want to see what else they do. I don't know how different it'll be, but I kind of hope it's really different. I like when studios play around with vastly different ideas and kind of see, what sticks. And also I think it helps avoid stagnation as well. So yeah. I'm excited. What about you? Are you excited for their next project?
Oh, I mean, so much, yeah. Like Returnal, I think was my game of the year last year. I forget what I actually said was my game of the year. I think it might have been Returnal though. Like I fucking love Returnal, and Housemarque as a studio is so talented. And like them saying that, hey, we have some ideas that like we weren't able to get into Returnal. We want to get into their next game. I'm like, hell yeah! Like you guys are. They're so creative and so I think polished when it comes to gameplay systems, specifically arcadey gameplay systems. And so I 100% believe them, especially playing the Returnal DLC. It's like, wow, you guys made a whole new game here, like building off of the bones of Returnal. It's really impressive to see them loop in like all these different ideas into just the DLC. Like for sure they got stuff that they're working on for the next game that probably they weren't able to get in here, and like it makes me think that hopefully their next game is something that's still arcadey still, because that is their specialty. I do hope, and for me I could go either way on it, but to get an even bigger audience in, I hope they don't do roguelite for the next one. I want them to come to roguelite again eventually, but I want them to make something that lets more people play, right? Like maybe something a bit less punishing,
something for us normies out here,
Yeah, you can like make something for the normies a bit.
Something for me and Greg.
Yeah, like I basically like a gateway drug, right? Get something that's gonna get Janet and Greg in, and the people that didn't really fuck with Returnal because it was a roguelite. That way, when you put out your third PlayStation Studios game and it is a roguelite again, Janet and Greg are gonna go, fuck, well, we gotta play it because we love the last thing, right? Like I want them to, not even just for that, but I also want them to, vary it up in terms of the kind of games that they make. Like they had a really great run there before Returnal, where it was, we're putting out Resogun, we're putting out Nex Machina, Matterfall, Dead Nation, Alien Nation, and these games, like even though they're all arcade style, they're all very different kinds of games. And again, I think that comes back to the brilliance of that studio. I think they're so creative and have so many different good gameplay ideas. And I want to see like what is the next run from Housemarque, right? What is the Dead Nation to Returnal's Resogun, if that makes sense? Like I want to see them diverge that way, and then come back and make another Returnal just for me. Janet, I can't wait to see when Returnal 2 happens, but that is for sure so far away.
Returnal.
If I want to Returnal, if I want to know what's coming out to mom and pop shops today, where would I look?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform, as listed by the Kinda Funny Games Daily show hosts each and every weekday.
Yeah. Out to man, that was a great note you hit there, Bear. That was almost like there's a song in the Drake album where Drake hits that same note, and I was like, I don't know.
Does he actually hit that same note?
Not as good as you did.
Okay.
Not as good as you did.
Okay.
Out today, we got Around the World for Switch.
Around the world, around the world, around the world, around the world.
Is that a reference? I've not heard that before.
Yeah.
What?
What is that?
What?
What is that?
Yeah, Daft Punk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Someone in chat
that's
who's good at video editing, I need you to splice Janet's version into the real version of that song. Post it on
Oh
Twitter.
my God, yes.
And at Blessing Jr.
Please do. Was that which album was that?
Like
was that a recent one?
the one that's like the cover is black and the lettering is like white.
Is that like the same album as Get Lucky?
That's half of their albums.
No.
Because Get Lucky was my shit.
That is. I'll look into it. You read the rest of the things. I forgot the name of it. I think it might just be. I think it might just have the name as the title. I think potentially it's the one that has one more time on it.
People are very upset with you in the chat.
That I don't know this Around the World song, really?
Yeah. I would have not
this
even
is Greg
admitted
Miller,
that.
But people are
Discovery
really
was the album, I think,
when it
but
comes
I don't
to
remember.
Daft Punk. Here's the thing,
No,
right?
because do you remember the whole Greg Miller Daft Punk saga?
And look, I'm not gonna hate on Daft Punk, but like Daft Punk, they're not fucking Britney Spears.
Careful.
You know what I mean?
Oh, chill.
Oh, okay.
It might be
Wes,
Homework.
You know what I mean? They're not Bruno Mars.
I
They're
need you to
fucking
shut the
Daft
fuck
Punk.
up. I need
We're
you
not
to shut the fuck up.
We're not gonna act like
Because you-
Daft Punk is the
because you
fucking most popular act in the world. Everybody knows the
Dude,
Daft Punk
you
singles.
gotta
No, they
stop.
fucking don't.
You gotta stop.
It's
you
Daft
gotta
Punk.
stop.
People definitely know Daft Punk. Like
People know two Daft Punk songs. It's Get Lucky and it's the song that Kanye made famous.
No.
Stronger. All right, those are the two
Wes.
fucking Daft Punk
You
songs
need
that
to
people
shut
know.
the fuck up right now because
And
the
you know
Daft
that I'm right.
Punkies are coming after you immediately.
All 5 of them are gonna come into my DD. Sure, yeah, come at me, Daft Punk.
Okay, you said you weren't gonna hate, and then you're doing exactly what Greg did. You're doing
I
exactly
don't write
what
it.
he did.
This is what happens when you corner me. All right, I get defensive.
A quick aside. Also, like I wasn't gonna. I was surprised that you didn't know the song, but I wasn't gonna. I wasn't gonna ham it up. I will say though, for music moments on Kind of Funny History, I do love the Greg, who is Cactus Jack. That conversation is like one of my favorite tangents ever. Where it's like, oh, this is like this person's like, oh, it's a wrestler. It's like, I mean, it's both, but like, yeah, like for who is Cactus Jack? When you ask people who is Cactus Jack, people aren't thinking wrestling necessarily. Like, anyway, I just thought that was funny.
I will say, when you said Cactus Jack just then, I did not think about Travis Scott. I did think about Mick Foley. Oh yeah, sorry.
I know of both, but it was funny to see like y'all both talk about who is Cactus Jack.
Continuing on with out today, we got Barn Finders for Xbox One, Deep 8 for PC, Deep Diving Adventures for PS4 and Xbox One. That's funny. Deep Diving Adventures is also what I call looking for the next Daft Punk single. Because I have to dive deep. It's like, oh, where is this thing?
They actually did just retire.
Yeah, that's right. Daft Punk hate. You got that today.
All right, Shaq,
sorry, what was that?
Here's the thing. I'm muting.
But it's a fake retirement.
A fake retirement?
So the music retirements are always kind of fake. It's like if you're retired until the light bill comes,
Look at Logic.
then it's like, hey, we're coming back, But
Logic retired.
Like Shaq points out, they retired and they actually retired, unlike Logic, who like retired for attention at this point, and then
they've
was
only
like
been retired for like 2 years.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'd be shocked.
Final Vendetta for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Hidden Objects Collection Volume 2 for Switch. Amori, go check that out for PS4 and Switch. Oxide Room 104 for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Plunder Dungeons for Switch and PC. Tales of Aravorn Season of the Wolf for PS4 and Switch. Time Rift for Switch, which I feel like I've gone through after learning that everybody apparently loves Daft Punk. This must be a fucking like Mandela effect situation. And then Zangion is out today for PS4. New dates for you: Nintendo Switch Online adds Pokemon Snap for N64 on June 24th, and then Cosro and Shiren is releasing for Windows PC and Xbox consoles on July 13th. Deal of the day for you. This comes from Video Games Chronicle. Final Fantasy VII Remake integrates. New Steam page confirms that Square Enix is offering a 29% launch discount for until July 7th, which temporarily takes the game's price down to $49.69. Nice. Now it's time for kindoffunny.com/you're wrong, where you write in, let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong, so we can correct it for those watching later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames and on podcast services around the globe. Of course, y'all are writing in here with Daft Punk bullshit, all right? All two of you are going crazy in here.
You're an asshole. I'm tweeting out about this right now from the account.
The two of y'all are going wild in here about Daft Punk. You both must be members.
The people in chat who were like, cancel the blessing show. Oh man.
Let's see here.
Maybe just the Crisis Core thing, I think, for You're Wrong.
Yeah, I don't know what this first thing is. What's the Crisis Core Reunion is a remaster? I'm not taking that as You're Wrong.
Wait, what did they say? No, I want to hear what they said because we're gonna
Grezik says the Square Enix website calls Crisis Core Reunion a remaster, not a remake. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. I mean, do they call it that? I mean,
if they call it that, they call it that. I'm not going to agree with them. Right?
Yeah,
like, that's a
I feel like I would. I don't know. I mean, I think I would probably just take it for. Yeah, they say a remaster, so I don't know. I mean, it looks really good. So, like, is that why you're hesitant to say that it's?
I mean, it looks just like
it's not like they're just up-resing the original PSP game, right?
I mean, it says that this is their description. For example, the graphics have been converted to HD with all the 3D models from the characters being fully refreshed. But I mean, I think if they call it a remaster,
remake in the trailer,
I would call it a remaster if they're calling it a remaster. Only because I know I have the debate of like they call FF7 remake not a remake. They call it a reimagining at one point. I think now they do call it a remaster. That one literally, that I take that as remake because we don't have a new terminology for what they were trying to coin. If they call it a remaster, then okay, yeah, sure, I guess. Like, it's a remaster, I guess, unless they like say we're fully building everything from the ground up. Like, they're referring to it as a remaster. So I guess we can clarify that. Yeah, they call it a remaster.
All right, they call it a remaster. I'm gonna interchange it every single time I talk about it. But sure, they can call it.
They can call it a remaster. We don't have to be happy about it though.
A remastering. Thank you, Jesus in the chat.
Sure. Of course, today is Friday. We got a whole week of hosts coming up next week. On Monday, you're getting, I believe it's Greg and Tim. Tuesday, you're getting Greg and Gary. Wednesday, you're getting me and Janet. Thursday, you're getting Greg and Tim. And on Friday, you're getting Greg and me. If you're watching this live on Twitch right now,
actually, it's me and you. On Friday.
On Friday, it's Janet and Bless back at it like a bad habit. If you're watching this live right now on Twitch, after this is Mike and Barrett playing some of that TMNT Shredder's Revenge. If you want to catch that stream later, you can subscribe to youtube.com/KindaFunnyPlays. Remember, this has been Kinda Funny Games Daily, each and every weekday live right here on twitch.tv/KindaFunnyGames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. We have a Patreon post show for those that are subbed at the silver level of patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames, so stick around for that. Otherwise, till next time, Game Daily.